Musibire muta, mwasibye mutya, amahoro, agandi, byaibo, habari gani, muraho, sangonini, kopango, odeo. For those of you who are wondering what that was, these are some of the various local greetings found in East Africa's diverse languages. Welcome to SheCentre, the female podcast, where I dive into the issues and experiences that affect women everywhere. I am your host, Resti Kansime, and I am passionate about creating a safe space for women to share their stories and triumphs. I want to thank you for tuning into my podcast, and I would love for you to join our community and stay connected with us beyond this episode. You can find us on Instagram at _SheCentre_podcast and follow us on Facebook at the SheCentre Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and hit that follow and like button on our social media to be part of the conversation. Hey, karibu. Welcome back to yet another episode of SheCentre, the female podcast, where we celebrate and amplify the voices of remarkable women from all walks of life. I just want to say a special thank you, and I cannot tell you how much I love you guys. To the farm, the SheCentre farm, those guys who keep coming back every week to listen to new episodes, man. You guys are the real deal. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you, because when I started out opening up this space and sharing the stories from different women, I truly just stepped out in faith, and did what I felt like God was calling me to do. But it turns out that I've had quite a number of people reach out to me and say, hey, Resti, man, that story was very touching. Thank you so much for this. And for the people who have come on here and shared their stories, they usually reach out to me and say, man, I can't believe I got to share my story. And yeah, it has been an amazing time, and I am truly blessed by all these amazing stories. I now understand what Oprah says when she means she did not have to go to therapy throughout her years. All she had to do was speak to different people and learn from their stories, and that was therapeutic for her. I am truly being inspired by each and every guest that I speak to every week. This particular year, we are answering the question, not this year, 2024. I mean, like the first year of the podcast. I don't know what the next year is going to bring, but we are answering the question, what happened to you? So every guest on here has shared their journey from, childhood and how this has shaped the person that they are right now. And the theme is personal growth, and I would say also the difference between self-worth and self-confidence. These are some of the things that have been coming up, especially with our millennial sisters, and it's been an amazing journey. Anyways, let me not go on and on about the podcast. And I just want to say thank you once again to the new listeners. Please, a short reminder, go down, scroll down, listen to all the other episodes out there of people who you do not know. It's always amazing to listen to other people and be inspired by their stories. So scroll down, just look at the title and find what works for you, or just listen to all of them. I promise you, you are going to be transformed. I have been transformed, so trust me. Anyways, today we're kicking off a special 2-part series with an extraordinary guest. Her name is Prim Nyonyozi. If you come from Uganda, I'm sure you already know her. If you don't know her, you should be knowing her. Prim is a woman who is out there doing the most, you guys. Let me first give you a short intro. Anyways, Prim not only has a full-time job, but Prim is also a content creator and an influencer who shares insights on fashion, lifestyle, and travel. Prim is also a co-host of the Unpopular Opinion. I am a fan of this show. I love the stories of these 3 amazing women, and they recently launched the Khama Digital Content Hub, which is truly amazing. I like that they're helping different people to find a way to monetize their talents on social media. So I'm definitely all for empowering. And yeah, Prim is also a model. I don't think this is something that she would probably consider in her bio, but she's also a model at the Material Girl Uganda with my girl Edna, and they recently launched their first and hopefully not the last clothing line. That's Material Girl X Prim, something like that. I'm sorry, Edna. Anyways, I am all for this. I love the clothes, everything that they created. I am such a huge fan of that. I just want to see women win, and I am all for yay supporting women. I cannot wait to walk into that store and buy one of their pieces. Yeah. So in the first part of our conversation, Prim takes us on an intimate journey through her transformation from posting vanity content to using her social media platform as a ministry. It was truly amazing hearing her perspective on what she is doing with her platform. Prim opens up about her struggles, triumphs, and the pivotal moments that shaped her path. Some of the things that she shares about her undergoing bullying in high school. It's almost impossible for me to even imagine that Prim was bullied, but this is stuff that's happening, and I'm really glad that she talked about this because I personally have experienced that. She also shares about her life growing up with her mom and how they navigated life and struggled. And yeah, get ready to be inspired by her faith, resilience, and the wisdom she has gained along the way. Stay tuned because you don't want to miss a moment of this powerful story. Let's dive in. Prim, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm
Thank you for
good. I'm
having
good.
me.
Thank you so much for making the time. I've been looking forward to this conversation. You don't know. You don't know how
Are
much
you
time I've waited.
serious?
Yes, I am. I think when I started the podcast, you're one of those people who I thought of first because I follow your content. I'm always like, I would really want to
Thank
hear
you.
more of Prim's story. So, and I think
Thank
even some
you.
people suggested, like, why don't you talk to Prim? I was like, I'll see if I can get to talk to Prim.
And yet I always feel like, oh, I've said it all. I've said everything
Yeah.
that I can be saying. Like I'm not interesting anymore.
No, you see, you give it in bits, and in many cases, like it might like take it's 2 years of content for you to like catch up. But then if you like
Yeah.
just tell everything at once, there's always that place where you can go and be like, oh, this is Prem, this is her story.
I
So I
get
think
you.
that's from my side. Anyways, that's what I think.
Mhm.
Okay, so you suggested earlier that we can pray before we
Yeah.
start. Would you like to do that? Lead us in prayer.
Okay. It helps me get
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this moment. We are grateful for this time. We're grateful for everyone that will get to listen to this podcast and watch it. I pray that whatever we share here will be from your mind. I pray that it will be a message that you want people to hear from you, Lord. I pray that you will bless us. I pray that you will bless Resty. I pray that you will grow her, that you will multiply her. And I pray that this message will be amplified to your people. So let this not be for us, but for you. We praise you and we honor you and we worship you. We pray for a good session, stable Wi Fi, stable electricity, stable everything, Lord Jesus. We thank you for this moment and we thank you for everything that will be said here today. In Jesus' name, I prayed. Amen.
Amen. Wow. That's a very wonderful way to start the recording. It is good to pray for the internet.
Yes, we're
I've
in
had so
Uganda.
many I've had so many recordings where I would go for like 5 hours and I'm waiting for someone to find a charger, poor connection. So
Mm.
definitely, yes, God. Thank you so much for the prayer. Yes. So why are you here? I shared with you shortly in a brief message. I am very interested in finding out stories. Like when you hear someone's story, you kind of get to understand who they are, and it kind of gives you that empathetic feeling, but also it helps you make that find that space where you can relate. I'm sure many of your followers have shared this with you. Like you
Yeah.
kind of relate and be inspired despite who this person is, whether it's someone selling manda in the village or somewhere. Like whenever they share their story, it kind of gives you that feeling of, oh wow, like it's either you're like, oh thank God I haven't been through that, I'm grateful for my life, or oh I'm going through this, thank you God for showing me someone who is going through the same thing. So my goal, my like final goal is to build a female platform, digital, and it's going to have a lot of things that I believe would help women in East Africa. But then I figured it's very easy for you to go out there and start something, but it's hard to explain to people why you're starting it. And I
Your whole,
figured, okay, yeah, I could say, yeah, women need this, but I don't have like a lot of proof backing it up. I just have my own experience to share. So I figured if before I start out, I could record, like have recordings for different women for them to share their personal stories so that I can say, guys, here is the reason why we put this and this and this aspect of the
yeah.
website so that it can be able to kind of make people relate, but also a hidden agenda is I want to turn this into a PhD, and I will have in-depth interviews at the end of the day to be able to decide on what topic I want to do, because I want to do something about feminism, not really feminism, but something about female empowerment. So I
Okay.
have been exploring the question, what happened to you? Yes, like you said, you've shared so much of your story, and that's precisely the reason why I reached out.
Yeah.
Because I feel like your life is every time you share a part of yourself, and also I don't know if you've noticed, like we have grown with you. Like these days when I hear you talk, I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, Prim
Yeah.
of 2020, like the way you
It,
talk, the way you carry
yeah.
yourself, I'm like, you can really see
No,
someone,
sure.
like the
The
transition in
shift.
someone. Yeah,
Yes. It actually
yeah,
makes me
and
so happy when people point it out like that. Like, oh, you're
yeah, it
different. You
is.
seem very different. Like, they watch an episode of you and they're like, oh, you seem so laid back. You seem at peace. You seem
Yeah,
like you've grown. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
thank you for recognizing that. Like, it
yeah,
means I'm not imagining it I'm not imagining it. This is
yeah,
actually what's
yeah,
being shown as
yeah.
well.
When you're the one who is going through the process, you don't see it. But
No,
in
that's
many
true.
cases, some people will choose to look at you through the lens of who you are, despite the
Yeah.
change and the work that you're doing on your life. But it's also very important, I think, for people like you whose lives are out there. You either have a disadvantage or an advantage. It's either people understand you because you put out yourself out there, or people will refuse to understand you and they'll still judge you regardless of the work that you're doing. But
Yeah.
for me, I feel like I understand you better. I think okay, by the time like 2020 came, you were starting out by sharing your story, which was like a good start. But now the growth, I'm like, how has Prim become the Prim we see right now? Like, I want to know the inspiration behind all the work that you're doing. You told us that you've grown, you're wise. Yes, indeed, you're wise these days. Prim, your words are like very few, but they cut deep. So I asked the question, what happened to you? Because I
Yeah.
want to find out from my guests to share about their stories, how they think their childhood could have impacted the person that they are right now, and how they see the world. And then we
Yeah.
can see how we get on from there.
Okay. So I feel like, yes, I've changed. I've grown, but I also know that at the core, I'm still everything
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
was when I
true.
started out. Like,
Yeah,
my mission has not been different. When
true.
I later realized the purpose of this platform, when it hit me one day, I decided and said that this is my ministry. This is my ministry. This is what I will put out in the world. This is what I will live. This is my legacy for the world.
Yes.
That the people that will grow up in the same generation as me, there's a song of Maurice Kiria that says Twakulira mulembe gwa Kiria, right? I want people to say Twakulira mulembe gwa Prim. Like, let someone
Yeah,
say, oh,
true.
there was a generation of this lady, and in that generation is when I learned how
Yeah,
to
yeah.
value myself, is when I learned how
Yes.
to take care of myself, is when I learned how
True,
to do
true.
this and that and that. So for me, it was always, so no matter how much I change, that will forever be my core. That this platform right here is my ministry. It's my legacy. It's my contribution
Yeah.
to the world. I always
Yeah.
knew growing up that, oh, I'll be a great person. I just didn't know how. I hadn't cracked the code.
Yeah.
So I always
Yeah.
thought that every great person must be a politician or a minister. And I always told my
Mm,
friends, I'll
mm,
be a minister someday. I'll run for like a post. I'll become a politician or something like that.
mm.
Because I feel like that's the only way that the world will hear you. That's when they'll hear your voice.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
thank God that at the right time,
Mm.
everything came together. And now when
Yeah.
I get like invitations to speak to people on certain platforms,
Yeah.
or when you invite me on this podcast, and knowing that even if one or two people or three watch it, their lives will
Yeah.
not remain the same. That
True.
for me made me realize that I don't have to become a politician to actually
Mm-hmm.
put a message out there.
True. True.
Thank God for
True.
social media, because now we can do that, right? So
Yeah.
I think the reason we are here is because, well, of the platforms that I've built, of the message that I share on my platforms.
Mm.
And that for me changed in about, I think 20, I think I was on the internet from 2014.
Mm.
I went away in 2016 and my account got blocked in 2015, sorry, and I came back and said another one, I think around 2016 or 2017. But most of it was vanity. The reason I had that account was to show people that I'd gone to school with that, oh, I made it. Oh, I am here. Like now you can't
Mm-hmm.
laugh at me anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
I am not the poor girl that you knew.
Like
I'm
you
not the
wanted to
girl that,
prove.
yes, I wanted to prove. Like I'm not the girl that didn't have
Oh.
tuition anymore. I'm not the girl you thought
Yes.
wasn't going anywhere. You
My
know,
dear. You're
because
cutting
of
deep with
like
your words, Prim.
her grades. Like I'm not that girl
Wow.
that you
Wow.
sat in class with. Like I'm not that person. Now I'm doing well. Like come and see for myself. Like I'll post pictures near my car and be like, yeah, now I drive such things.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing
Yeah.
is, those things, those pictures would go out and I would remain empty. Those pictures would be up on my platform and I would still remain so
Mm.
empty. I would still remain so insecure.
Yes.
I would still meet these people
Oh
and
my
pale.
God.
I
Yes.
would lose myself. Like I would try to, I remember that I would be like in a bar, and if I see someone that was in class with me, like, we are hanging out, sometimes we're hanging out at Legends, and I made sure that I take care of everyone's bill. And when I do, I open my wallet and show like a band of money.
Wow.
And that's when I realized it was such a very low moment for me, that I was that
Mm.
insecure. Like I sat with
Mm.
myself and I was like, and still I remained panicking. I still felt like I didn't belong
Mm.
on that table, that I would still not a
Mm.
cool kid, that I would still,
Wow.
that girl that everyone used to see and say Bambi and pity. I was still that person
Yes.
on the inside. And that doing all these things or getting these things and making myself comfortable, surrounding myself with all these things that I thought would make me feel like I'd made it, hadn't actually. That those
Yeah.
things had not healed that part of me. So I remember on Thursday, there was a Fanero fellowship, and I went to Fanero and I was like, you know what, I'm leaving the internet, I'm closing Instagram, and let me just go out and work on myself. Let me go out and work on myself and these insecurities that I have.
Yeah.
So I remember it was like worship session was starting, like at the very beginning of service. We are like, I remember that day, it's etched in my memory. And worship session is starting, and I clearly heard the voice of God. Like I was transformed. Like I remember what that felt like. I remember feeling like everyone, like it's like there's voices quieted down. Like things
Mm.
around me quieted down, and it was just a moment between me and God. And I was like, yeah, so I'm closing my account. Was for me, I'd come to church saying that out to myself, like I'm closing my account, I'm finally doing this. I'm not going to be on social media sharing this vanity anymore. I'm not proving anything to anyone. And then a voice answers, and God answers, like, no, you're not going to close. And I'm like, I am going to close. Like, it feel like I'm in prayer, but like I'm exchanging words with someone. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
closing my
Yeah.
account because I am vain, I'm what. And God is like, no, you're not going to close, but now you're going to be different. You're now going to talk about different things. You're going to deliver a different message. This must have been about, I think, 2018. I think 2018, 2019, 2018, thereabouts. And I'm like, I remember saying, I have nothing to offer you. Like, because by then Fiona
Yes.
was active on social media as a creator actually, and she would tell me, "Best sis, you should," because my account was private, "you should open your account and share more. Like you have a lot of creativity in you. She's like, you know, I haven't found you on these streets, and you're not doing this. Why are you closing your account?" And I'm like, "Oh no, people will judge me. Oh no, you know." But so God tells me, now I'm going to use you for something different. And I remember saying these exact words. I'm like, if you want to use my mouth, good for you. But you will make sure that you tell me the things to say. You make sure that
Yes.
everything pertaining to that is taken care of. If I want a camera, you'll buy it. If I want a phone, you'll buy it. Generally, like you're going to employ me. I'm only doing this
Provide.
for you. Me as me, I don't want that.
I'm
Like now
helping
that you're
you.
insisting, I'm helping you. I'm now that you're
Yeah.
insisting,
Wow.
okay, I will go with your things, but I want you to also know that I'm not happily doing it. So as it's like, I'm going to make it difficult for you as well. You better give me what to say. You better come and say the things yourself. You better take accountability
Wow.
for it. You better, you better buy equipment because we need cameras. You better make sure that the money for all those things is there. Then for me, I just provide
Yeah.
my body. That's all you use.
Mm-hmm.
And God is like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's good. I can
An
take that. I can take
instrument.
that.
An
Yeah. God
instrument.
is like, yeah, I can take that, no problem. And I remember now the moment, like as if like faded away, like it's like I came back. And I remember feeling like, was I dreaming? Did I dream this? Was this happening? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I kept looking at the person next to me to see if they had experienced what I had experienced. Were they looking at
Wow.
me? But people were deep in worship. And I'm like, I just had a moment that wasn't real. Like, I just had a moment that was like transcendent. It was beyond, you get. And that's when I started. That's when I understood that. But I also told God that you're going to guide me, you're going to teach me, because the truth is, I don't know these
You
things. I
didn't
don't know
know.
what you want
Yeah.
me to say. And then I was also like, in my mind, I was like, I hope you're not trying to make me become a pastor. Because I remember when like Apostle Grace would say, I'm praying for ministers,
Yes.
I would bend like this. So that if that prayer is
So the
moving
anointing passes.
parallel like this, it can pass. Like, kindly kindly move on to the person behind me.
Next,
Thanks
please.
God. Next, please. Then one day I woke up and realized that I almost do a similar thing. There's a time a friend of mine told me,
Yes,
oh,
you are.
people kept telling me things like, oh, I pay tithe because you talked about it. Like you made me realize the importance of
Yes.
tithe, or you made me realize about the importance of like helping people. And then I later realized that ministry looks different for
Yes.
different people.
Very true. Yeah. We're all
We are
ministers in
all
one way or
not called
another.
to stand
Yeah.
on pulpits and preach the
Yeah.
word of God directly from the Bible, but we preach it differently. We
Through your
are
life.
called, yes, our
Yes. Yes.
lives as Christians on earth is to preach the word of the Lord in
Yes.
whichever capacity or way. So as a mother, you're a minister. You get, you're ministering to these
True.
children.
True.
As a wife, you're a minister to your husband. As a friend, you're a minister to your friends. You're a sister. And as a worker, you're also a minister of the kingdom. So
Very
that's
true.
why I do not go to work and decide that I hate this place and I'm going to give zero. When I used to do that, you get. And one night I got up and I just jumped out of bed, sat, and a verse in Isaiah was in my head, and I opened it and I read it. And I'd been giving such a hard time to my supervisor for like a month, undermining her leadership, telling people to undermine her, being so big headed. I remember I was asleep. I got up, a verse in the Bible. I opened the verse and I read it, and it was talking about service. It was, and I read a verse that talks about. There's a verse I read in Isaiah that I don't remember, but I also read a verse about serving man just like I was
Yes.
serving God. I
Yes.
sent her a
Yes.
message at 2 a.m. and I told her, Diana, I am so sorry for how I've treated you. And I
Wow.
promise you that on this day, from this day forward, I'm going to serve you. And I'm
Wow.
going to serve you and I'm going to be in your corner, right? And from then on, each time someone would come to me, because they would come to me to complain about her, and then I gas them up. When they would come to me to complain, I'd be like, oh, perhaps maybe if you did this and that, maybe perhaps guys, if we could do this differently, guys, let us go to work, let us do this and that so that she finds it easier to lead us, so that she finds it easier to do her work. And
Wow.
that was how God taught me about service. So when it comes to ministry, it doesn't mean that ministry means you're going to always be the one on top telling other people down.
Down.
I know that ministry is also about service. You
It is.
serve those around you. Yeah, you serve those
Yes.
around you. And it's so funny that not everything comes at once. Like you go through a phase and you realize what God is teaching you about your purpose as a wife. You go through so many years where you learn your purpose as a friend, your purpose as a worker, your purpose as a sister, and that many different calibers we carry as human beings. So for me, I've decided that this is my ministry. And at first, it was so disturbing when people said, "Oh, she's a Christian, but why is she posting in her bra?" I used to feel like, "Why are you judging me?" Get defensive and stuff. But I also now look back and I am glad I went through that phase. You get like I used to dress up a certain way. I would appear in like my bra and my panty online and didn't care. But now I'm so self-conscious. I don't do that because I'm like, how do you want these people to perceive you? How do you want them to receive you? The way you want them to receive
Wow.
you is the way you present yourself.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about transition and change, those are some of the changes that I've gone through. The way I dress, the way I present myself to people. I present myself in the most organic way that I also know myself. Like, this is who I am, and this is who I'm presenting, and that's who I want you to receive. Yeah. So
You've preached a word. I don't know if you know, like, we should just put this in a Fanero like screens or something. Oh my God. I think this is setting, like, you were talking, and I was like, this is exactly the same kind of life that I have found myself. You mentioned something that hit me. I'm not that girl anymore. Like, I need to prove. And we have been, most of the guests who have been coming on the podcast, Pumla and I talked about this as well. It's self worth. You could be out there proving to everyone your confidence, like walking around with your head high. Kumbe inside you're this tiny, like you're
you're
tiny.
crumbling.
And
Yeah.
yeah, if you remember at school, there are those people who just always come, like they're opening their suitcase. They're like, you just always want people to know, and would
Yeah.
always be like, this person is confident. Like you just see them as a confident person. But
Yeah.
the actual truth is, people who are confident do not go about showing why they should be
No.
seen as a certain person. So
No.
you're explaining self-worth. Like you needed to find out, am I worthy? Like, and then there's one thing I noticed, the one thing that caught me from your platform is the verse that you put. Perhaps I was born for such a time as this.
Yeah.
That is truly, 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 like you are one of the people in our generation who, like, I think every school year or every couple
Yeah.
of years have one person who like represents them. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but in our generation, like not generation, in our like age group, yeah, you're one
Yeah.
of the voices who is speaking to a lot of things that many of us are struggling with.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing to know that this is faith based, because then it allows other people who just consume your content just for entertainment to actually see, like, to just like me right now, it has just blown my mind. I'm like, okay, this makes sense, this makes sense, this, like, the things are connecting. Purpose driven, the words I've heard is belonging. You wanted to
Yeah.
belong, and
Yeah.
right now you belong not because you fit into a
No. Yeah.
specific group. I remember your content on Lucy Smells wedding. It
Yeah.
was so hilarious how you were talking about, you guys, this wedding is like, for an insecure person that would have taken so much toll on you. Like you would have gone there and all this trauma of and say, why am I the one who is not this? Like that could have been the kind of experience you had. But
Yeah.
for you to give us the context to consume as, you guys, there's this half of the world like this, but I'm also okay where I am. That shows me that you belong wherever you go. Wherever you go, you are a person who knows yourself, and you are worthy of, like, the spaces that you get in there. You know, I am worthy of being here,
Being
and
here.
that's a very, very amazing thing to know.
Yeah.
So, can you
That
just talk a
that
little
that
bit
is
about?
that
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
that is something that Resty has come so much later on, way later than, like, I want you to know that you've seen me on on the platform probably looking confident and stuff, but like knowing that I belong is something that came so much, like yesterday,
Later.
like the other day, right?
True, true.
and and like that's something, I don't know, recently I did stories where I said to people that I'm so grateful. Like I live in a moment where when I sit down to watch TV, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I can afford internet. I'm so glad I
You
can afford
know,
this TV with a good picture quality.
yes,
And like
yeah.
I'm always just constantly looking around. I'm
Grateful.
wow, I'm so grateful
Yeah.
that living in a house where the wind is blowing, and oh my God, thank you so much, because this feels so serene today. You understand? So one thing I've realized is that there are times that we pray about certain things and even forget them.
True, true.
You can make a prayer and you forget. There's a time a friend of mine told me, she would warn me about people. She'd be like, oh, so and so is not a nice person. I'm like, what? Then I come back like 2 months later, like, oh my God, you were right. And she's like, you should pray
Yeah.
for the spirit of discernment. And I was like, okay, reluctantly. I was like, oh, she's like, I have it. And I know, and you need to pray for it because I've seen you make mistakes a lot. So I went and reluctantly said, praying for it. And you know how you chant a prayer 5 times, like all the time? You're like, God, that week you're
Just
obsessed with
becomes
that.
like just
So,
yeah.
so I was obsessed with praying about discernment. And then after I gave up and stopped. And recently, um, something like a shift happened. Like there's someone that I like, it's like a mask fell off my face, and I said, seeing this particular person. And I'm like, okay, before I wouldn't be able to see. And like people come into my life and I just quickly feel like this person is not here to stay. I so quickly feel like I'm not giving you my personal number because you're not going to be in my personal life. And there are people who come and I'm like, I'm going to pursue this relationship and I like this person to be here. And one day I was wondering, am I just wiser? How is it that now I can see certain things? And
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit reminded me that, oh,
You
there's a
asked
time
for
you prayed for
discernment.
discernment, and
Yeah.
this is it. This is how it appears. And I was like, wait,
Wow.
that was a long time ago. I kept waiting for it to
Yeah.
hit me. And like when I prayed for it, I kept waiting for it to come from the heavens and hit me. And then I speak
Yeah.
in tongues and get it. Like, what do you mean you're just giving it to me like 2 years later or 4 years? Like, I mean, this is something someone
It's
told me
in the
like
make. Yeah.
in 2020. How is it that you're now making me realize it in 2024 that, oh, this is what discernment is like? Like, are you kidding? But knowing that I belong to rooms is something that one day it hit me, and I actually came and put this message out there. One day it hit me that if Resty, someone called you beautiful, and I was standing in the same room before, because growing up, I was called beautiful a lot. But it felt like I was called beautiful, I was called brilliant. My dad told me all these things, right? But the more you hear these things, they become who you identify yourself as. They become everything
Yes.
you know. They become who you are.
Yes. Yes.
And when
Yes.
they are taken away, or when you meet, I remember how hard it was when I met other smart kids. I was smart. To my father, I was brilliant. I was topping my class for years on end, right? Then I went to a bigger school where there were other smart kids. And now I didn't know
Okay.
who I was because there were other people who had the same qualities I had.
Oh, you attached your identity to this one thing.
Yes, that, oh, she's a beautiful young girl. Eh? She's a
Oh,
smart young
yeah.
girl. So when I kept meeting me, I thought that I am beautiful, but my dad made it seem like I am beautiful and it's only me in the
The
world.
most, yes,
Then
yes.
I moved and met other beautiful people, and I became so insecure. And I
Oh
became
my
the
God.
kind of obsessed person who keeps asking like other people,
Am I?
do you think that so and so single Brunji? Do you think so and so is prettier? And then
Ah.
they would be like, I think that single Bweru. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, Fuchs. But that would only take me a week, and after that, I'm back to
Yeah.
hating that person, being insecure, or trying to be their friend so that I can find out their weaknesses. I was so obsessed. So one day, I just like, then after that, it came from that to me thinking, you know what? I'm ordinary. I'm ordinary looking, and that's it. So now I blended in and became an ordinary person. I knew that I resigned, you get, oh, I'm not hot, I'm not pretty, I'm not beautiful like I thought. I am ugly, and let me just move on. And that's how I move through life, right? And then one day, not even far back, like say last year, it occurred to me that if you and I were in the same room, like it occurred to me that I didn't care about how other people saw me, and I didn't know why. Then something in my heart told me it's because you realized, like, I keep asking myself questions a lot. I keep interacting with myself a lot. Like, why do you think
Yes.
you behave like this? Why do you think, So when I was interacting with myself, like, why is it that I stopped being obsessed with other people's beauty? Because I said, now seeing people who are beautiful, and I would compliment them and I would tell them, because, like, I am so obsessed with dark skinned people. Like when I see them, most times I want to touch you. Like I find them so beautiful, both men and women, by the way. So I was like, how is it that, how did I get over that insecurity? Then something told me that it's because you realize that someone else being beautiful does not mean you're
Does
not.
not
It didn't
reduce you.
take away yours. When
True,
someone
true,
else is
true.
smart, it doesn't take away your smartness. You finally realize that there's a balance to the world.
Yeah.
That simply because another person is excelling doesn't mean you're a failure.
You're not,
In
yeah.
no way does their success or beauty or smartness or anything
Try to
translate to
reduce
you
yours.
or reduce
Yes.
yours. Yes. I realize that
Yes.
we cannot be in the same, like now I wish I could go back to school and stop feeling insecure about the other people that were there that people used to look at and say, oh wow, like I would never have compared. And that to tell you the truth, Resty, I never compare myself to anyone. I stopped comparing myself to anyone. So even
Yeah.
when someone says, oh, I think she's competing with someone, in my head, I'm like, really? Okay, I hadn't realized it. That is you looking at that. Personally, I am
Yeah.
not thinking about you because I believe that there's a chance for all of us to coexist.
There's enough space
And
for us in the
there's
universe.
enough
Yeah.
space, yes.
Yeah.
And so coming into myself and feeling like I belong is not in just one department. There's been so many fragments
Small,
that
small,
have
yeah, that
come
have to come
together
together. Yeah.
to
Yeah. To
create
make you,
this kind of
yeah.
feeling, right?
Yeah.
And when you are on a platform or out there like we are, or famous like we are, you're scrutinized. The public is trying to, it's like there's a microscope
Take
on
you
you and they're
apart.
trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
take you apart. And
Yeah.
it's important that you know who you are before you present yourself to them.
Very, very
Because,
true. Yeah.
yeah, that means that you will end up being every little person that they want you to be. Someone is like, no, no, me, I want you to be with us who are like this. Now, me, I want you to be with us who are like that.
Yeah. Then you
And
develop
at the end of
multiple
the day,
personalities.
you have to, there's a prim who shows up online, and there's a prim who does what?
Yeah.
There's a prim who is trying to please this faction, and prim who is trying to please this.
And then people will figure
So
you out and then blame you
they'll
still for trying to please
they'll
them.
blame
Yeah.
you still, yeah. So I
Yeah.
feel like in the past 2 years, I've not, I feel like where I am right now, I've never been in my life. It's a very new territory. It's a
Yeah.
territory of, as describing this to my friend yesterday, and she used the word blessed assurance. I was telling her, there's a blessed assurance that I have now. Like, I can't explain. There's a peace and quiet. There's a assurance. By assurance, I mean you are sure of who you are. Like, you are sure of
Confident
who
in
you are.
who,
You're
yeah, in who you
confident.
are.
And I've now
Yeah.
realized that being here is when I've realized what they meant by confidence is not loud.
Yeah.
It is silent. Because in when I became quieter or more silent, now it's hard for you to move me now in this season than when I was loudly
Yes.
telling you, you can't move me, I am this and that and that. Then one thing would have scared me or shocked me or just had me making phone
Yeah.
calls of, what do you think of this? Oh my God, what do you think of that? I'm more confident now when I'm not trying to prove it to everyone than I was when I was trying to prove it to the whole
Yourself.
world.
Yeah.
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 Because
That's
now it's important
that's
that
really
I know it.
amazing.
It's about me that I know it.
Yeah.
More than it is important for the world to see me as confident. Like, I don't care
Yeah.
if that's how you see me or not. Me, that's me. It's enough for me that this is how I value myself and this is
Very
how I see myself.
That's very, very true. And there's this lady whose book I'm going to buy. It's called Worthy. And she talks about the difference between the two that people always mix up. That's self-confidence and self-worth. She's like, many of us are walking around feeling like we have self-worth, but we are actually just confident people. But the actual truth is, like, when you are confident and you know yourself in that, I think the example she gave was how she like made it, and then eventually Oprah like gives her number and says, call me anytime you need me. And she takes 4 years without calling Oprah, and yet there are times when she could have like needed Oprah's platform. And she says she didn't feel like she was worthy of being Oprah's friend. She thought of all these things, and yet she was like a New York style, like she's also rich. But recently, she interviewed Oprah for her podcast, and I was listening to it, and I was like, these guys are talking like besties. And this is a person who, in her head, she thought she wasn't. But then when she was out there in the world, everyone was seeing her as a very confident person. Like everyone was perceiving her as it. And yet inside her, she didn't feel like she was worthy of so many relationships. And she said it's very important for you to know, are you worthy of being in a room? Are you worthy of being someone's friend? Are you like, if everything that you have was taken away from you, would you still be the Prim that we see? Like, if you didn't have your
Yeah.
platform, would I still walk on the street and see you walking with your head high, or would you still feel like, no, my confidence came from the fact that I had so many
Yeah.
followers, I had this and this and this and this, and I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing about life. I'm currently reading Ecclesiastics, and you know how that Solomon talks about, um, it's everything is useless, like it's useless,
It's all
and which,
vanity.
yes,
It's
it's
all
vanity.
vanity.
And he was talking about today. I was reading the part where he was talking about how rich people, like the rich are excelling, and the and you who is like, no, the rich who don't believe in God, like people who don't believe in God, who don't even see God, they're excelling. Everything is like, everything is going well, and you're out here overnight prayers on Thursday. You're like, God, why is that? And that means you have attached your worth to material things. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it means that even these people who have everything, that might be not even like something that they see. Like they might be seeking something bigger than them because they have accomplished it. So it's
Yeah.
very amazing for you to explain that as something that's attached to your calling and your purpose in life. I just wanted you to share a little bit about like your history, your past growing up. You mentioned something that I relate so much to, school fees.
Yeah.
Hey, that was a season in my life where when I talk to my friends who are, when you're walking around with people who are rich, your friends, and guys are like, Bambi, this person. I'm like, you guys, I used to be that person. It's me. I am that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And yet now
Same.
I'm here with you guys. So
Same.
can you share a
Yeah.
little bit about your upbringing and, how it was
Mm.
growing up?
Utter poverty was the word. Utter poverty. Utter poverty. And when you talk about how it shaped us, I remember the days, there's a time that they chased me like to go back home in O level for school fees, right? Anyway, it shaped us in so many ways. It shaped the schools that I went to. It shaped a certain childhood of mine that I don't know. Now I look back in hindsight and I'm like, okay, it was all for certain things to be realized. So first of all, like when I was joining S1, I joined like a month late for everyone. I had the marks to take me to Maryhill. I had been given a place, but my mom didn't have the money to start, right, to take me there. So I'm sitting at home and S1 has started. So, like after a month, someone tells my mom, there's a school that can give bursary to kids who are smart and also they can do some work around the school and they pay half the money. So you can take her there. So my mom takes me to the school and yeah, you do some work and then you pay. So you pay half the money. But this school, they hated me so much. That like that year, because I remember they made us like you would come and introduce yourself in S1 and talk about the aggregates you had. And I think I'd done, I came S1, everyone else had already joined, and I was like the last person to come in. And I talked about my aggregates but I remember like people hating me on site. Like, you find your classmates don't like you. You find a teacher, one random teacher picking you out and bullying you and stuff like that, and it goes on and on and on. And for me, I thought that was the normal thing. I was telling my friend this story on Sunday, and my friend and I have been friends for 10 years, and she told me that each time I meet you, you share a part of your life that
It's
makes me
different.
realize that makes me feel like I don't know you at all. She's like, you always share
Yeah.
some things, and I'm like, wow, what? What? She's like, you've
Yeah.
never told me
Yeah.
this. And because, her and
Yeah.
I are very close, I told her those people hated me so much but I also knew that I couldn't tell my mom to change the school. I couldn't even tell her about the things I was going through because it would be unfair to her to ask her to change the school. So I'm like, let me
Change
just
you.
wait
Yeah.
it out. And I waited it out. Like I was bullied in that school. I was hated so much that I met a friend one day in like form 3, like, and I remember he had just joined the school. It was a mixed school. I don't talk much about it because there was no pleasant memories there. And I remember, like, I was so excited that I'd finally also found someone that is my own friend. The kids hated me so much that they would tell newcomers, like people who joined the school, that, oh, there's a kid. She has not yet come. She always comes a bit late because of school fees, but you'll see her.
Oh.
She's like this and that and that and that. But I remember most of their words used to be like, ye manyi mulungi, ye manyi mugezi, ye panka. And I'm like, nothing about, like, there's a time I used to explain myself, like, there's nothing about me that,
Yeah.
like, I'm not saying these things out loud to you. Like, that's what you perceive of me because, man, I was a confident child. Like, my father had nurtured that so well. I was in schools where would speak up. I was the kind of person that speaks up. That school is what drummed me down. Like, the students made sure that they bring me down to, like, bring her down to her level. She ain't anything. So anyway, I thought that this boy, I remember when he joined, his older sister in S5 came to me and said, oh, Prim, my brother needs help with like notes. I was looking for a smart kid in S3. They told me you, so you have notes. Please help us with your book. So I'm like, oh, you know what? This is how I'm going to buy this friendship. I'm like, bring, and I also help you write the notes. So I help the person write the notes. What? And after like 2 weeks of copying notes with them, you know, you're from a different school, other schools have covered certain things. I walk into class. And by now, I'm like so excited because, well, I have someone I sit with because I used to sit alone.
Yeah.
No one wanted to sit with me. And I walk into class and I find like a cartoon drawn on the blackboard of me. And they're saying things like, "Wesi bakumwana, da da da." And he had also now changed seats to go and sit at the back with like the people that used to bully me. My heart broke. My heart broke. So I didn't talk to this person for the rest of the years we were there. They didn't speak to me again. I think that it was also born out of the shame of what he had done or whatever. We were young anyway. So I remember S4 on Saturday, you know, was supposed to start exams on Monday. And on a Saturday, I find a card under my pillow and he had sent me a success card. I think it was his way of compensating for or making up for his like, and he had written, I'm sorry, I really liked our friendship, but things didn't have happened. So I went to thank them when I met them, right? Like in class now. And he still walked past me. So I didn't realize that he had sent a card in secret and he still didn't want people to know that he had sent a card, a success card, or that, you know, anything. So, you know how you walk towards someone and they just like look through you as you're smiling. And to this day, I remember,
Yeah, those feelings,
and
eh?
walked past them. I realized, oh, I'm still a secret. Like people didn't, even those who are my friends will never come out to claim that we are friends. I remember how, like in exams, I would offer to sit with people and like I'll do my things quickly, give them answers, or sit with them and do for them, you know, help them and stuff so that they can now be my friends. And it was, alas, would get out of the exams and it's like they've never seen
They
me.
don't know you.
It's like they don't know me because everyone else has been told that's the enemy. And if you talk to her, you're the problem. Like even you, they could ice you out for talking to me. So anyway, one day I'm going to get back to this, and there is where I'm heading towards the place of favor. So one day I was telling a friend about this story. I was telling her different stories about that school.
Your child, yeah.
Yeah, how I was bullied. One day someone had said I was a thief, and I just had like a crowd of people coming to my dormitory to like sort of beat me up. And I kept, and the reason she was sure that I'd stolen her 20K is because for me, I hadn't been visited. So I'm the one in the dormitory who lacked. It can only have been
Yeah.
me. Anyway, so after still S4, I found a note on my suitcase and she's like, you know, I'd like to talk to you after, you know, your last paper, which was literature. So I meet her and she's like, you know, I'm sorry, I just wanted to let you know that I found the money that I thought you had stolen in S3. And I told her, Miriam, I want you to turn back time. I want you to call everyone that stood in that corridor and called me as if I want you to turn back time and give this apology when everyone that was there is hearing. Like that's the only way you can make it up to me. But for
Yeah.
now, I don't know what to do for you because people are going to move out in the world thinking that I had stolen that money. And yet I
Yeah.
kept telling you and convincing you I hadn't. So she had found the money in a basin And she was too ashamed to come back and say by that it wasn't, because it was so easy to hate on the person that was always
Yeah. True.
bullied. Anyway,
True.
so one day I was telling a friend of mine these stories, and her older sister was there. So her older sister had me narrating. The sister was a tailor. And she told me, mwana gwe, olina olutwe. She said it in Luganda. She's like, olina olutwe. Sabira okuganja. Mukama musabire okuganja. And I started praying, and I didn't know, because she didn't know it in English. She said it to me in that word she knew, which was okuganja in Luganda. And I also didn't know what it was in English. So I would say all my prayers in English. And then I would say, Mukama mpa okuganja. I don't know whatever that means, but give it to me. And when I joined Baranyanji in S5, and people wanted to beam, I joined when I was so angry and full of like a darkness. I was so angry at the people that I'd gone to
Oh,
school
yeah.
with. And I kept
Yeah.
praying that I would not meet even one of them in Baranyanji. But people in Baranyanji were kind. Like, I was surprised that people wanted to be my friend. It's like all of a sudden, there was a light bulb that went off, and people actually could see me. Like, I was seen. Like, these people actually wanted to be my friends. Like, people would listen to me when I spoke. Like, they wanted my views. Like, they let me participate in clubs. They let me like take part in things. That is not who I was, because for years I tried to keep my head down to see if these people could like me, and they still hadn't. But like, that's when I started seeing favor manifest in my life, and I've seen it up to this day. And I'm such a testament to favor, and that's something I tell people. I always tell people, please pray for favor. This is something that God pours out in plenty.
True. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it made me realize that I never have to hate anyone for what they have, because God has blessed them like that and He has put that on them. But again, it doesn't mean that it takes away from me. It is also something I've talked about on my platform, that God will never come to me and say, Prim, we have to reduce some of your favor to share it with Resty.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True.
He's an abundant God, and He gives all these things to people in plenty. You see how my friends keep joking that, Prim, you're like a cult. You find people with their phones, like you never go to a place and you don't find someone watching stories, listening to you or something. And I know for sure that I am not that
Favor.
interesting as a person. Everything I say, I could write down my message for today and give it to you, and you would say it, and it would always be delivered a different way by you and me. I've come to understand that
It's
there's a uniqueness to each and
grace.
every one of us, and a grace to each and
It's a
every one of
grace.
us
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
makes us unique, that is unique for everyone. So you are not my
Yes.
competition, I am not yours, and the other person
Yeah.
isn't.
That's true. Yeah.
And I am not that interesting, Resty. I am not the most beautiful person, I'm not the smartest, I am not the most intelligent, I'm not any of those things. But God has given me the grace, and He has given me the favor. When people say things like, I love you, I don't even know why. I smile because I know why. I
Yeah.
smile
Oh.
because God,
Yes.
God generously opened and poured out favor. When I asked, He did it in so much, with so
Yeah.
much, in
Yeah.
plenty. And I keep telling people that favor is what makes things unfair. You will keep saying things like, but Prim, me, I don't even see how what she works. I don't even see the things she does, but I don't know why she's the one who is getting this and that. Favor makes things unfair. And
It
that
does.
day it's revealed to you that that is the secret. The day you realize that Prim is not your problem, you realize that she's on her own lane and you're on your own lane. So
Yeah.
maybe
Very
if
true.
I'd not gone to that school and been bullied and hated like that, I don't think I would have experienced favor the way I do now, or that the way I've experienced it.
Yeah.
And knowing that that favor was unmerited, that I don't have to keep subscribing, that I don't have to keep buying that data bundle, that nothing will take me out of that grace. Like, no amount of sin, no amount of goodness, nothing is going to take me or keep me in there, but it's unmerited. It's just really God's grace, and that is like, let me give you this. And I know that there's nothing I can do to sustain it. You get, not in my power anyway.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
sorry. So nothing in my power is going to be done to sustain this. I just know that it's unmerited. It's God. It's God deciding. So that's one of the stories that has shaped my entire being. But another thing that growing up in that background, the way it shaped me is one day I came home. The school had told me to go and get school fees. So I'd come home, and I remember coming and finding my mom just seated outside. She was a teacher, so she was from school. So I asked her, "Have you lost the key?" She's like, "No. Those are two padlocks. The landlady put a padlock on the house."
Our house,
How
yeah.
much was our rent that we couldn't pay? Like we owed her about 6 months, and we used to pay 70,000 per month.
Yeah,
Resty,
yeah, yeah.
70,000, and I think 20K for electricity. So 90K was our rent, and this is not far back. This is like 2000. Okay, this is far back. This is like 2007, I think. It's 2000. 2007 thereabout.
Yes, I know, I know, I know. Don't be mad. I'm sorry. You have to come back next week to listen to the rest of the story. Thank you once again for tuning in to this inspiring episode at SheCentre, the female podcast. I hope that you were as moved by Prim's half of the story as I was. Her journey from adversity to triumph is a testament, truly a testament to power of faith, resilience, and authenticity. And I just want to remind you that this is just part one of our two-part series with Prim. Make sure to join us next week for the continuation of this conversation, where we'll even dive deeper into her experiences and insights. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps me bring more incredible stories to light. So stay connected with me on social media. Until next time, keep celebrating and empowering incredible women in your life. Thank you for listening. Please help me spread the word by sharing our episodes with your friends, family, and followers. Let's amplify the voices of women, break barriers, challenge stereotypes, and create a network of support and empowerment. Together, we can bring about positive change and make this world a better place for all. This is SheCentre, the female podcast, where women's stories matter. I love you all. God bless.